Dead Rock Station floated in the cold silence of space, far from any star, planet, or help. It was the galaxy's most dangerous prison, a place where the worst criminals, warlords, and monsters were locked away. No one had ever escaped it. No one had ever even tried, because Dead Rock didn't just hold prisoners, it broke them. Inside, everything was steel and shadows. The air was always heavy. The lights flickered. Guards wore full armor and carried weapons that could melt through walls. Cameras watched every corner. Inmates were locked behind energy fields, screaming, laughing, whispering. Some hadn't spoken in years. Others whispered names no one understood. But today, something different happened. A small ship arrived at Dock 17. The guards looked at each other, confused. No new prisoners were scheduled. They walked to the docking area, weapons ready. The doors opened and out stepped a man, a human. He wore simple clothes, his hands were free, and his eyes were calm. Too calm. "Name?" a guard asked. "Eli Ward," the man replied. The guards laughed. "A human here? He won't last a day." The warden watched from above. He didn't laugh. He stared at the screen, zoomed in on the human's face. Something didn't feel right. He had seen murderers, torturers, and even creatures made of pure energy. But this man, this calm human, made him feel nervous. Eli was led through the prison. Inmates shouted at him. Alien prisoners banged on the walls, making threats in every language. Eli didn't look at them. He just walked forward, silent, as if he already knew the way. They placed him in cell 88, the deepest part of the prison. His cell door closed with a loud buzz. The lights flickered again. An hour passed. 2 alien prisoners, both over 7 feet tall with sharp claws and black eyes, were let out of their cells for exercise. Instead, they walked straight toward Eli's cell. One guard noticed and smiled. "Let's see what the humans made." Jimmy, the energy door opened for Eli to step out. He did, slowly. He looked at the 2 creatures and said nothing. They moved in. One of them growled, "Human flesh is soft." A few seconds later, the hallway was quiet. One of the aliens lay still, eyes wide open, not breathing. The other was crawling away, leaving a trail of blood behind. His voice shook as he whispered, "He didn't even touch me." The guards rushed in. Eli stood in the middle of the hallway, calm, unharmed. They dragged the survivor away to medical. The other one was dead. No marks on his body, no signs of a fight. Just fear. Pure, deep fear. The warden watched the security footage, but something was wrong. The cameras had gone black for exactly 7 seconds. In those 7 seconds, the fight had happened. Or maybe it hadn't. No one knew. No one saw. Later that night in the prison cafeteria, no one sat near Eli. He ate alone, quiet, eyes down. Around him, whispers spread. What is he? Did he kill them with his mind? Why is he here? Even the guards began to keep their distance. When Eli walked past, they stiffened. One of them dared to ask, "You some kind of assassin?" Eli just looked at him and said, "I'm just human." That night, the lights in cell block 3 flickered nonstop. The prison AI system crashed twice. Strange messages flashed on the screens, coded in an Earth language no one could read. The tech team blamed old software, but the warden wasn't so sure. He walked to Eli's cell. The human was sitting on the floor, eyes open, not blinking. "You didn't sleep last night," the warden said. "I don't sleep much," Eli replied. The warden leaned closer. "Why are you here?" Eli looked up, his voice calm. "Maybe you brought me here. Maybe you made a mistake." The warden didn't respond. He turned and walked away. But as he left, he heard something Eli was humming. A soft tune, familiar. Old Earth music, something humans sang in war. Back in his office, the warden opened Eli's file again. Most of it was blacked out, redacted, no crime listed, just one word, classified. He leaned back in his chair, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Something was wrong. Dead Rock had just received a new prisoner. But maybe Eli Ward wasn't the prisoner. Maybe he was the one sent to break the prison. Dead Rock Station was never quiet, but lately something had changed. The prisoners still shouted and fought, the alarms still rang, and the guards still patrolled with heavy boots and tired eyes. But now there was a strange feeling in the air, a kind of tension that made everyone move a little slower and watch their backs a little more. It all started after Eli Ward arrived. He didn't talk much. He didn't make friends. He didn't ask for anything. He just watched. The cameras showed him sitting in his cell for hours, awake, silent, staring at the wall or the hallway. Most prisoners slept because they had nothing else to do. But Eli didn't. For 5 nights in a row, he didn't close his eyes even once. At first, the guards thought he was just scared. Then they started to wonder if he ever slept at all. In cell block 4, a guard named Relis sat in the control room, watching the screens. "He's still awake," he muttered. His partner, a taller alien with dark green skin, leaned over. "He hasn't blinked in over a minute." "That's not normal." Relis zoomed in on the feed. Eli sat perfectly still. No shaking, no stress. He looked more peaceful than anyone ever had in that prison. But there was something about his stillness that made Relis uneasy. Later that night, screams came from the lower levels. 2 inmates had tried to break into Eli's cell. They thought they could kill him in his sleep. But Eli wasn't sleeping. Security arrived minutes later. The hallway was quiet when they got there. Blood covered the walls. One of the attackers was unconscious, hanging from the ceiling by his own belt. The other was hiding under a bench, his eyes wide with terror. "Don't let him look at me," he kept whispering. "He saw me. He saw through me." Eli stood in his cell, untouched, hands behind his back. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The guards didn't ask him any questions. They just locked the hallway and left. By the next day, no one in cell block 4 sat near Eli in the cafeteria. Even the violent gang leaders stayed away. Some of them had ruled Dead Rock for years, smuggling weapons, running blackmail rings, controlling the food, supplies. But none of them wanted to test the human. One alien, a tall, 4-armed fighter named Krez, didn't care. He walked up to Eli's table, sat down, and said, "You're going to work for me." Eli didn't reply. "I said," Krez repeated, slamming a tray on the table. "You work for me now. I own this place." Eli looked up, his face blank. "No." The next morning, Krez was gone. Some said they heard screams in the middle of the night. Others said they saw shadows moving when the lights flickered. When guards searched Krez's cell, they found only a single word scratched into the wall, with a spoon: "Run." The warden called a meeting. 6 guards and 2 high-level security officers sat in the war room. The warden looked tired. "There's something we're not being told," he said. "That human is not normal. He's not afraid. He doesn't act like the others. He doesn't sleep, eat much, or react to threats." "He's dangerous," one guard said. "He's something else," the warden replied. "We need to find out why he's here." That evening, while the warden studied Eli's blacked-out file again, the prison AI system glitched. Screens across the station went dark for a few seconds. When they returned, strange symbols appeared: circles, lines, and numbers. The tech crew tried to erase them, but the symbols came back, and on Eli's cell door, someone, or something, had drawn the same symbols in blood. The next day, a guard entered Eli's cell to check for contraband. He was in there for less than 2 minutes. When he came out, his face was pale, and he couldn't speak for hours. When he finally did, all he said was, "I saw something behind him, but no one else was there." That night, the guards didn't patrol near cell 88. They told each other it wasn't worth it. The warden walked to the security room and watched the footage from that day. On the screen, Eli sat still as always, but in one frame, for just a second, there was a flicker, a shadow behind him. Something tall. Something not human. He paused the video and zoomed in. The image was blurry but clear enough to show one thing. Eli wasn't alone. and whatever was with him had never been part of the prison records. Something was very wrong with Deadrock, and it had only just begun. Rumors spread fast inside Deadrock Station. By now, every prisoner had heard the name Eli Ward. Some called him a ghost. Others said he was a weapon, a secret project from Earth. One thing was clear. No one wanted to be near him, not even the, guards. But the warden needed answers. He called in a specialist, a mind reader, a psychic alien from the Akar species. She had worked with military prisons before. Her name was Vera, and her abilities were feared across the galaxy. She could dive into a person's memories, pull out secrets, even uncover hidden truths. She entered Deadrock with 2 guards and a machine that hummed like a heartbeat. She was small, with silver skin and glowing eyes. "No one is immune to me," she said confidently. "If this human has secrets, I will find them." The warden led her to cell 88. Eli sat on his bed, hands resting on his knees. His eyes opened slowly as Vera stepped inside. He said nothing. Vera smiled softly and sat across from him. "I'm here to talk," she said. Eli nodded once. "You can try." Vera closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. At first she felt nothing, just silence. Then something pulled her in. She gasped. Her mind was no longer in the room. It was falling, fast, through memories, thoughts, places that didn't make sense. She saw burning cities, black skies filled with fire. She saw machines that walked, like men, and men that moved like shadows. She heard screams, thousands of them, all speaking Earth languages. She saw Earth itself broken and rebuilt, and broken again. Then she saw Eli, standing on a battlefield, alone, holding something in his hands, a detonator. Before she could scream, she was thrown back. Vera collapsed to the floor of the cell, shaking. Blood ran from her nose. Her eyes were wide, staring. The ceiling. The guards rushed in and carried her out. She didn't speak for hours. When she finally did, all she said was, "He's not here by mistake." The warden tried to contact Earth for answers, but no reply came. Every message sent to Earth Command was met with silence. Or worse, auto-responses claiming Eli's file did not exist. That same night, a riot broke out in Block 2. Dozens of prisoners charged the guards, screaming that they wanted out. Not to escape the prison, but to escape him. They were afraid of Eli, afraid of what he might do, afraid of what might already be happening behind the scenes. Security teams moved in fast. They used gas and shock batons. Several prisoners were knocked out, a few were killed. It was the worst riot in years. But Eli never left his cell. He sat in silence as the prison shook around him. After things calmed down, one of the guards approached Eli's door. He wasn't supposed to, but curiosity got the better of him. "Why are they so scared of you?" he asked. Eli looked up. His voice was quiet but clear. "They're not scared of me, they're scared of what follows me." The guard blinked. "What follows you?" Eli didn't answer. The next day, strange things began happening. The gravity in Block 3 reversed for 2 minutes. Inmates and guards floated, screaming, until it returned. In the medical wing, all the lights turned red and the doors locked for 13 minutes, trapping everyone inside. When they finally opened, one nurse was missing. Security footage showed her walking into a hallway and simply vanishing. And in the control room, a message appeared on every screen. "He's still human for now." The warden called an emergency meeting with his top officers. "We're losing control of this station," he said. One officer, a former soldier, slammed his fist on the table. "Then kill him, end this." The room went silent. The warden looked at him. "You want to try? Go ahead, but I won't stop you." The officer took the challenge. He gathered 6 of his best men, heavy armor, plasma weapons. They marched to cell 88. Eli was waiting. The officer ordered the cell door to open. It opened. 2 minutes later, only one man ran back, covered in blood, shaking, and screaming one word over and over: "Eyes." The warden watched the footage. Later, just like before, the cameras had blacked out for exactly 7 seconds. When they came back on, the hallway was empty, except for Eli, standing in the same spot. Calm. Still. Later that night, the prison AI spoke without being activated. In every hallway, in every cell, it whispered, "Deadrock has never been broken. Until now." And somewhere deep in the station, systems began shutting down, one by one. Eli wasn't escaping. He was waiting. And whatever he was waiting for was almost here. Deadrock Station was changing. Lights flickered, doors jammed. The AI stuttered and repeated strange words. Prisoners whispered about the human in Cell 88, how he never slept, never ate, and never showed fear. They spoke his name like it was a curse, Eli Ward. In the control center, the warden watched the prison fall apart, piece by piece. The power grid failed for 6 seconds, just long enough for 5 prisoners to disappear from their cells without opening any doors. Security footage was missing. No trace of how or where they went. "This place is cursed now," a senior guard muttered. The warden ignored him, but deep down, he agreed. He had worked in Deadrock for 20 years. Nothing had ever broken through its walls, not once, but this wasn't a break-in. It was a rot from the inside. Something was wrong, and it started the day Eli arrived. Meanwhile, in the prison yard, the other inmates kept their distance. Some formed groups, tried to stay safe. Others scratched symbols to the walls, the same ones seen near Eli's cell. Circles and lines, repeating patterns. No one knew what they meant. One inmate, a former hacker from the Tralax Empire, tried to break into the system to figure it out. He was found in his bunk, mouth open, eyes frozen wide. His screen showed one word: observer. Guards started quitting. 4 left within a week, claiming they couldn't stand the whispers anymore. One said he dreamed of a door every night, and when he woke up, he had drawn it perfectly on his wall in his sleep. The door looked human, but twisted. No one could explain it. The warden was out of options. Earth wouldn't respond. The station was falling apart, so he tried something else. He went to see Eli himself. 2 guards led the warden to cell 88. Eli sat there, calm as always, hands resting on his knees, eyes half closed. He looked up when the warden entered. "I need answers," the warden said. "Now," Eli studied him. "You won't believe the answers. Try me." Eli stood and stepped forward, just enough to make the guards tense. "I'm not here to escape," he said. "I'm here to slow it down." "Slow what down?" "The thing that's coming," the warden frowned. "What is it?" Eli's eyes narrowed. "It has no name, it has no face, but it follows us. It followed humanity through the stars. It follows every race that reaches too far, too fast." "You're speaking nonsense." Eli stepped even closer. The lights in the hallway flickered. "Your prison is not keeping me in. It's trying to keep something else out. But the moment I came here, the balance broke. And now it's waking up." The warden opened his mouth to respond. But then the alarm screamed across the station. "Warning, system breach. Sector 9. The warden rushed out, Eli's voice still in his ears. The breach wasn't from outside. It was from deep inside the station, in a part no prisoner should ever reach. Sector 9 was below the main floors used for storage and abandoned systems. It had been locked for years. When security teams arrived, they found the door to Sector 9 wide open. No one had the code. Inside was darkness, total and unnatural. Lights didn't work. Flashlights dimmed the moment they were turned on. The air was freezing. One guard stepped forward. Something pulled him in. They dragged his body out minutes later. He was breathing, but his hair had turned white. He was 25 years old. The medbot scanned him and gave a different reading, 81. The warden watched the feed in horror. That was when Eli's voice came over the station intercom. He hadn't touched anything. He had no access, but his voice echoed through every hallway, every cell. "You opened it." All over Deadrock, inmates screamed. Some cried. Some tried to claw their way out of their cells, and in Sector 9, something answered back. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a sound. It was a pressure, a weight in the air, like thousands of eyes pressing down on your soul. The AI glitched again. You were warned. Guards abandoned their posts. Lights across the station dimmed and stayed that way. Doors locked randomly, some stayed shut. Others opened on their own. Eli sat in his cell, calm as ever. The warden returned to him, desperate. "What is it? How do I stop this?" "You can't," Eli said, "but I can hold it back, for a little longer, if you let me out." The warden shook his head. "That's insane." Eli leaned forward. "Keeping me in here only weakens the walls. You want this thing locked away? I need to move. I need to face it. You're just a man." Eli smiled sadly. "No, I was, but not anymore." And as the station shook again, as shadows began slipping through walls, the warden had to decide, open the door, or let Deadrock fall. Deadrock Station was dying. Power systems failed one by one. Lights stayed off. Doors refused to open or closed when no one was near. The AI kept whispering things that didn't make sense. It repeated numbers, names of dead prisoners, and strange phrases like "too late to turn back" and "it watches from within." And deep below in Sector 9, something moved. The warden stood outside Cell 88, staring at the man who had caused it all. Or maybe the man trying to stop it. Eli Ward, the warden's hand hovered over the panel that would unlock the door. Behind him, his chief of security, Rylan, protested. "Sir, this is a mistake. He's dangerous." "I know," the warden said, "but he may be the only one who understands what's happening." He pressed the panel. The cell door opened with a hiss. Eli stepped out slowly, his face calm, eyes sharp. "You waited longer than I expected," the warden nodded once. "Tell me what to do." "First," Eli said, "you seal Sector 9. It's already too late to close the gate, but we can slow the spread." The warden turned to Rylan. "Send a team." Rylan hesitated. "You're going to follow his orders now." Eli looked at Rylan. "You can go if you want, but you'll never make it off this station alive." Something in Eli's voice made Rylan step back. Eli moved through the hallways like he had lived there for years. But he hadn't. He had only been at Deadrock for a few days, yet he knew every corridor, every system. He gave orders to shut down certain airlocks, reroute power to the core, and lock doors that had not been opened in decades. Guards followed him, confused but too afraid to question. Inmates watched from behind cell bars. Some called out, others prayed, and a few just stared as Eli walked past, as if they saw something behind him, something following. When they reached the command center, Eli stared at the screens. "Show me Sector 9, he said. The cameras were barely working, but the image came through. It showed a dark hallway, walls twisted and pulsed like they were alive. And in the center of the hallway stood a shape, tall, thin, wrapped in shadows. It had no face, no eyes. But it was watching the camera, and then it moved. The screen went black. Eli stepped back. "It's crossed over." The warden gripped the edge of the table. "What is that thing?" Eli's voice was cold. "It's an old enemy, older than Earth, older than the stars. We found it during the war, buried deep in a dead system. My unit was ordered to study it." "What happened?" "No one came back." Eli looked the warden in the eyes. "I died on that mission." The room went silent. "What do you mean?" Rylan asked. "I mean I was dead. For 6 minutes. When they pulled me out, I wasn't the same. I saw it, and it saw me." Eli lifted his shirt. Across his chest was a mark, not a scar, not a tattoo. It glowed faintly like burned starlight. It pulsed with each breath. "This mark connects me to it," Eli continued. "It can't fully enter our world while I'm alive. But every moment I'm locked away, it gets stronger." The warden stepped back. "Then what do we do?" "You help me trap it again. We can't kill it, but we can hold it. That's why I came to Deadrock." Suddenly the room shook. Boom! The lights flickered. Sirens screamed. "Breach in Block 5, a guard shouted. "Something's coming up through the floor." Eli's eyes darkened. It's trying to reach me. They ran toward Block 5. Along the way, the halls had changed. The walls were bending. The floor cracked under their feet. A strange mist flowed through the air, cold and silent. From the other side of the hallway came the sound of whispers, thousands of voices overlapping, speaking forgotten languages. Eli stopped. It's here. The warden looked down the corridor. Out of the mist stepped a shape, tall, shadowed, floating above the ground. Its head tilted slowly. There was no face, just a hollow emptiness that pulled light into it. Guards raised. Their weapons. Don't shoot, Eli warned. Bullets won't stop it. He stepped forward alone. The thing moved toward him. The warden held his breath. Eli raised his hand, and the mark on his chest glowed brighter. The creature hissed. The floor under it cracked. The mist screamed, and the hallway shook again. Then, for a moment, everything stopped. The creature vanished. The mist pulled back. The silence was worse than the sound. Eli turned. He was pale, sweating. That was just a piece of it, he said. The rest is still in Sector 9, but it's coming. The warden looked around. We don't have much time. No, Eli said. We don't. And if we don't seal it now, this thing won't just destroy Dead Rock. It'll spread to other planets, to other species. Rylan looked horrified. How do we stop it? Eli looked down the hallway where the thing had stood. We go deeper. Eli Ward stood at the edge of the old lift shaft that led straight into Sector 9. The warden Rylan and 2 guards stood behind him, wearing armored suits and carrying high-powered weapons. But they all knew those weapons wouldn't help much, not against what waited below. You still want to do this? The warden asked quietly. Eli didn't turn around. I have to. If I don't, this prison will become the first tomb in a long list. Whole planets will fall after this. It starts here. He stepped into the lift. The others followed. The ride down was silent. No one spoke. The lights inside the lift flickered, showing glimpses of each person's face. Nervous, pale, afraid. When they reached the bottom, the doors opened to darkness. Not regular darkness, living darkness. The air was thick, cold, and the walls were covered in a strange black growth, like veins pulsing with shadow. The hallway ahead twisted unnaturally, like it didn't follow the rules of space. This isn't just part of the prison anymore, Eli said. This is part of it. They moved slowly. The lights from their suits barely reached a few steps ahead. Their footsteps echoed in strange ways, sometimes delayed, sometimes ahead of them, like something was walking nearby but couldn't be seen. They reached the old blast doors. They were open. No one had opened them. Eli stepped through first. Inside, they found the source, the gate. It hovered above the floor, spinning slowly, made of black stone and surrounded by symbols none of them could read. It hummed with power. And something was on the other side, trying to come through. The warden whispered, "What is that?" "It's not a door," Eli said. "It's a wound, a tear in space. It leads to the place this creature comes from, a world of nothing but hunger and silence." Suddenly, the gate pulsed, and a shape stepped through. The guards froze. It was the creature again, taller than before. Its face was still blank, its body now covered in shifting, moving patterns, like it wore the nightmares of every prisoner in Dead Rock. Rylan aimed his rifle. "We can't let it get past us." "Wait!" Eli shouted. Too late. Rylan fired. The bullets passed through the creature like it was smoke. Then it moved. In a blink, it was in front of Rylan. The guard screamed, and then fell. No blood, no wound, just gone. His body was there, but his mind was empty, as if something had scooped his soul out. The others backed away. "It's feeding," Eli said, his voice shaking. "It feeds on fear, on pain. It doesn't kill fast. It eats slow." The warden stared at Rylan's body. "How do we stop it?" Eli didn't answer at first. Then he stepped forward, facing the creature. "I have to trap it, the mark on me. It's not just a warning. It's a lock." "What do you mean?" "I'm the cage. If I stand inside the gate's field and you overload the power systems at the same time, It'll pull the creature back in and seal the wound. You won't survive that, the warden said. Eli turned, and for the first time, he looked tired. I wasn't meant to survive this. I came here to end it. The creature hissed and took a step forward. Eli didn't flinch. He walked into the gate's circle, the glowing symbols lighting up as he moved. Now! He shouted. The warden hesitated. Do it! The warden turned to the remaining guard. Overload the reactor. Route power to the gate. The guard tapped quickly on his wrist console. The ground shook. The gate began to spin faster. Sparks flew from the floor. The black growth along the walls screamed and pulled away, burning in the light. The creature rushed forward, but hit an invisible wall. It roared, a sound that shook the walls of dead rock. Eli stepped to the center of the gate. The mark on his chest blazed like fire, and then he spoke, not in English but in the language of the creature, a terrible, deep voice that didn't sound human. The gate pulsed once more. The creature screamed again, then exploded into black mist. The gate cracked. The symbols began to fade, and Eli, he fell to his knees. The warden rushed forward, stopping. Just outside the circle. Eli looked up, smiling weakly. Tell Earth I did my job. Then the gate collapsed inward, pulling the mist, the creature, and Eli with it. And then, silence. The lights returned. The walls stopped twisting. The air became normal again. The warden stood there for a long time, staring at where the gate had been. Deadrock Station was still standing, but Eli was gone, or so they thought, because in the deepest cell, all alone, a flickering light began to pulse. The mark was not finished. 3 weeks had passed since the gate collapsed. Deadrock Station was quiet again, but not peaceful. Repairs were underway. Lights flickered less often. Doors worked. The black growth was gone. But people whispered about the man who walked into the dark and never came back, about the creature he fought, and about the strange signal still coming from Cell 88. The warden hadn't spoken about it, not to Earth, not to his officers, not to anyone. He just watched, because every night, at the same time, the mark would flicker on the wall inside that empty cell. The same mark Eli Ward carried on his chest. It pulsed like a heartbeat, like something wasn't done yet. One evening, the signal changed. It wasn't just light, it was a voice. Don't open the door. That was all it said. But it repeated, again and again, quiet, calm. The voice was definitely Eli's. The warden stood outside the cell with his new chief of security, Lieutenant Hara. Why don't we shut it down? She asked. Seal the cell. Destroy whatever tech is inside. The warden shook his head slowly. Because if Eli's warning us, there's a reason. That night, the signal grew stronger. Not just a light now. A shadow moved inside the cell. Guards were sent to scan the area. They reported strange readings, fluctuations in gravity, energy spikes, and a low-frequency hum that sounded almost like breathing. Sir, Hera said, whatever's in there, it's trying to come back. No, the warden said. It's already back. Down in the control room, he checked the old prison logs, and there it was, Eli's name, flashing red. Inmate alive. Location unknown. The gate had pulled him in, but something brought him back. Not fully human. Not fully anything. That night, the warden returned to Cell 88 alone. He stood in front of the door. The light pulsed once. Then he heard Eli's voice clearer than before. I held it, but it's still trying to break through. I can't leave. If I do, the thing follows. The warden spoke softly. Eli, are you still you? Silence. Then, not all of me, but enough. A long pause, then the voice returned, weaker, tired. I need your help, Warden. I need to stay locked in, not for weeks, not for years. Forever. Don't open this door. Not for anyone. Not even if it sounds like me. The warden's hand shook. You came here to die, he said. And now you're a prisoner again. No, Eli replied. Now I'm the guard. The warden stepped back. He turned and walked, away without looking back. The next morning, the cell was sealed completely. Walls reinforced with old war tech from Earth. Power lines rerouted. Scanners placed around the area, and a warning carved into the metal door. Do not open, ever. Word. Spread fast. Prisoners whispered in fear. Some said the creature had taken Eli's place. Others said Eli had become something more, something that kept the galaxy safe by holding evil inside him. The warden didn't explain. He just added a new line to the Deadrock rules. There are two ways to protect the galaxy. One is with warships. The other is with sacrifice. Years passed. New inmates came. Old guards retired. But the cell never opened again. Sometimes, late at night, a few heard a voice humming from inside. Not screaming, not angry, just humming, like a man waiting for time to end. One day, long after the warden had died and his story had become legend, a small team from Earth visited Deadrock. They came to study the prison, to understand its strange history. One young officer found the sealed cell. He read the message on the door. He smiled. Then he reached out to touch it. Behind him, an old recording played across the station, crackling. With static, Eli's voice. Soft, cold, final. I said, "Don't open the door." The officer froze. His hand stopped inches from the panel. He didn't press it. He turned and walked away. Because something on the other side had heard him. And it was waiting. The end.